Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Here.
Alderman Gartner.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
Alderman Montello.
Here.
And I have Alderman Breeze is absent.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Any public comments? Guess we can't do it then. Yeah, for public comments, it has to be on the agenda, to comment on something on the agenda, unfortunately. And that's the only thing we allow on the public comments. We're going to have to move on. Here, the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. New business, cable access agreement. Alec, do you want to make any comments, or?
I'm Alex Burkholz from Northwood Technical College. Cable access, of course, is an interesting thing to operate these days because we're in a period where eventually cable access will likely cease as a result of other technologies taking over. And so we continue to evolve with cable television, and our cable provider here, Northwest Communications, has been a fantastic partner when it comes to cable access, especially as we compare that to the experiences of other municipalities in the state where they haven't played as well. You may note that they put in fiber optic connections to the studio at the college, which has provided the best program quality that we've ever seen as compared to the older technologies that were in place prior. At the same time, though, the big change for us is moving from channel 6 to 106. And so that has thrown some of our viewers because there is still local programming on channel 6, but it's all from Amory. And so we've had inquiries as to why am I seeing this or that on channel 6, and of course we don't have any control over that. So 106 is the new home of New Richmond local programming. And as of right now, all the local producers of programming that submit programs weekly to us are now also on other means of dissemination. So they also have started their own YouTube channels, for example. So we're at a point where all producers are submitting to multiple outlets. So we're no longer the only way that some of the producers are getting their content out. Are there any other questions that I can entertain?
Richmond just on twice a week, our council meeting?
The council meeting runs on Thursday evenings, and then it runs repeatedly during what we call the government blocks over the weekend. So you, along with the St. Croix County Board, as well as all the other county televised meetings, are shown multiple times on the weekends. Now this meeting that is live tonight will show for the first time at 7 o'clock on Thursday.
Mr. Mayor, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve the cable access agreement that's been provided dated July 1, 2024 to June 30, 25.
Second.
While you're up here, understand the difference between channel 106, not just the numbers, because I can get that one. What I'm talking about is the content.
100 points.
Thank you. What I'm getting at is the content. So the content basically is the Amory station, which I think does a fantastic job. That's basically the producers of the content that's going on those stations. So they're doing the basketball games, and they're doing the football games, and they're doing the school board meetings, and they're doing all that kind of stuff and getting it on Channel 6. What we need to do is communicate better, I think, maybe with the school, with other entities, get more content on Channel 106. I think that's something that, I don't know if it's the city's responsibility or responsibility or all those kind of things. I hear a lot of people say, gee, I watched the Amory basketball game, or I watched the council meeting on other things, and the quality's good, and all that kind of stuff is so well done on the Amory Channel 6. We need to get, in my opinion, we need to get, whether it be a partner to broadcast the hockey games and broadcast the basketball games and the football games and the girls softball games. I think we could do a better job of it as a city to kind of get better content on Channel 106.
My understanding is that the content you're seeing on Channel 6 is paid for by ads. So when I've looked at that channel, I see it'll say that this sports event is brought to you by a car dealer
Mike
in
Montello,
Amory. Or,
yeah.
yes. Right now, the way the city has written the guidelines, we're not allowed to have any commercial entities on the channel. So we can't have anything with commercials.
Okay.
So that would have to be redone, and my understanding is the state has changed the rules so that that could be the case, that the channel could be changed to allow advertising. But in order to coordinate that effort, it would require more than the 9 hours the city compensates
Correct.
for staff time. But yeah, that would be possible. The channel in Amory is interesting also because it doesn't seem to me it's run by the city. It's really run by the cable company. And so they have their own parameters. You know. Long time ago, that used to be the case here where the cable company ran it. But that's predating this agreement.
Which is the cable company that's in Amory currently.
Well, when the cable company ran this, I believe it was New Richmond
It was
Telephone.
part of the telephone company.
Yeah.
But I think you bring up a good point,
I'd
Craig.
like to see that happen.
Yeah,
What we've got to do is ad hoc committee or put it on the table and say, I think a lot of citizens in Richmond would like to see more of that.
I have no idea what the subscription rate is for cable TV, but I mean, you're right. Those sports events that you can watch today are streamed, and I have no idea the rules that would maybe allow a simulcast if the streaming company, I have no idea whether or not, you know, I was thinking about girls softball and their, you know, getting down to the state tournament. It would have been neat to be able
Yeah.
to see that. Well, I guess somebody in town broadcasted, but it must have been, again, a streaming deal again.
Streaming deal, but
But
is there
there's-
partnerships available for that streaming deal?
Right. I think it's an interesting idea, and we
I'd like
should
to at
pursue
least
it.
look into it. see
Yeah,
the
we should pursue it.
possibilities.
Would you like to pass this tonight and then maybe look into this?
No, I definitely will pass it tonight.
See what the feasibility is.
That's not the point.
Maybe you could have contact with the city on that, because I know what Craig is saying, you know, they might even have more subscribers if you're able to do that. And
Yeah.
if we did that, would that, if there's advertising, would that go back to
Go to
this
the
here?
producer.
And then maybe
whoever
reduce
puts
it?
it on.
After a year, you could find out how much you're taking in and maybe reduce the cost too.
Well, I mean, the challenges are, these, I'm assuming the streamers, they've got to have some revenue to pay folks for going and giving of their time. And then
Oh.
the expense of just producing it and putting it out there. And the technology has come so far. I should be hesitant to say this, but Lord knows I'm never hesitant to say much. Almost 50 years ago, I worked for a local cable TV company and radio station at the end of my high school career. And we did this. We did local football games, we did radio and we did football. There was some simulcast, but we've done both of that. But the technology has changed so much, and you're right. There's a point in the future when cable TV really probably won't even exist because of if folks got internet, the access, the ability to get things. But I do think it's worthy of looking into. Maybe the school might be interested in having
I would think
an
so.
educational opportunity to have folks do that, so.
Well, and even the producers of the programming would more than likely be interested in simulcasting or at least partnering with us, because they could probably get their ad rates up by quite a few if a lot of people, if they found out a lot of people were watching it on TV.
But maybe the streaming could actually go through channel 106 also.
Correct.
Possibly, I don't know.
It's possible. The city would need to explore how the revenue would happen and who's it going to go to. Right now, there's no revenue set up for the television. So anything we do is strictly gratis.
As of now, we can't even do it. So
We
we
used to-
couldn't program advertising type content on channel 106, according to our agreement.
Right, yeah, according to the ordinance as it's written now.
So I just want to, for a different day.
Maybe you can start looking into that possibly and see.
Well, we can on our end too.
We used to have hockey, basketball, because we had parents that were covering it, and they would give us the content then to show. Now that they can make their own revenue online, because they're getting paid per click if they're uploading it to many of the platforms, you know, they've kind of lost interest in submitting it through our means. The other issue then is that the sanctioning bodies at the state level have gotten much more controlling over what we can show. And even the last few years that we had hockey on the channel, WIAA, I believe it was who it was charging us a fee that we couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And so once they get beyond a certain point in the year, it's not something that's shown either.
And WIA is now currently has their own streaming service, so it's just something I want to look into in the future, and I don't know what committee it would go to, but it's something that.
Any other questions? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert. Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Passes. Next item, ETJ Certified Survey Map application for Colb's.
And good evening, Mayor and City Council. Just for a purpose of efficiency, I'm going to combine 7.2 and 7.3 when I discuss them. Both are located in the town of Richmond. As a reminder, the extraterritorial jurisdiction is that 3-mile buffer around the city limits. So any new CSM or plat within that area, even though it's not currently in the city limits, the subdivision itself has to be approved by the city. So in this case, both are located on 100th Street in the town of Richmond. The applications themselves have both been reviewed by staff as well as the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission recommended approval of both of the CSMs with the condition that any future subdivision would again have to come back to the city. But otherwise, we did not have any other comments, proposed changes to either one.
I mean, we can take both these under the same one because it's the same issue for both of these,
Same road, yep.
with the one condition. Questions on this?
Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion that we approve the ETJ CSM with that one condition that's listed.
There's both of them for Colb's and Dalton.
Sure.
Second?
Discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Motion passes. Preliminary and final condominium plat applications for New Richmond Garage Condos.
This project location is on the north end of New Richmond, on north of Highway 64 and 65, just up towards the airport. The condominium plat is proposing a total of 60 units. They're 25 by 45. This is just the plat itself. So the Plan Commission approved the site plan, which got more into the specifics of what the buildings would look like and that sort of thing. But with the condo plat, there's also a condo declaration that would be recorded. So similar if any of you are part of a homeowner association, that really kind of addresses things like if there's a board, if there's maintenance, if there's a common fee, you know, for snow removal, lawn care, that sort of thing. So that gets recorded separately. But in regards to the condominium plat itself, the recommendation from the Plan Commission was to approve the preliminary and final plat. The condition that they noted was in regards to a drainage and utility easement. And so it just notes on here that there should be 5 feet along side lot lines, 10 feet along front and rear. So that would just be noted as part of the recording process. But otherwise, in terms of the review in regards to the setbacks, returns to access to the streets, there were no concerns. Regards to private well and septic, that was previously discussed by the Utility Commission and was approved. So in the future, if municipal water and sewer are extended on Highway 65, at that point, the property owner would have to connect. But otherwise, they were approved to have private well and septic as part of this project.
Just explain why they don't have city sewer and water then.
So oftentimes one of the biggest drivers is cost. In this case, looking at the proximity and the cost to extend services that far. This isn't an instance where, it's right across the road or it's within 100 feet. And so it's, at some point, there could certainly be utilities extended, but there's nothing in the immediate future that's planned. It could be 10, 20 years from now. And at that time, the cost would be borne just by the municipality. So there wouldn't be special assessments or things to property owners along the way.
Ben, I got a question for you. And I'm really
Get
just,
a motion first. Then you can ask a question.
okay. I'll offer a motion that we approve, got to see what it's called. Preliminary and final condominium plat with the listed condition.
Second.
All right, Mike, I'm curious, how many wells and how many septic systems are you putting in?
Ben?
It's 1 well and 6 septics, small septics.
Questions?
Camp Road,
Yep.
and one down south on Hudson on 35, and there may be a couple more, I don't remember, but they're really nice and
Yeah,
they're
they're
fancy.
popular.
Yeah, and I can't believe the way that some of them have been decorated on the inside. Unbelievable. The floor finishes, the kitchens, the way they've been finished off, game rooms, power lifts to stack cars
Yep.
over on top of each other. And the door is big enough to get a motorhome in there too, is that correct?
Yep.
They're really nice. And I'm not saying this because I want to go negative here. Don't get me the wrong way. But they're so nice. And I'm just thinking, are people going to want to move in there and stay there? And I know they can't live there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's recorded in our declaration that that's illegal.
And your bylaws have already been filed.
Oh, that's coming.
And I know you mentioned at the Plan Commission meeting, and I was just kind of curious. I know there are steps that we can take in the city here. If somebody is in violation of the. I just want to know if you yourself have, in your bylaws, are going to have any special thing in there that if somebody happens to move in, because again, I'm not going negative on you.
Right.
but-
No, I hear you. I've thought about it, and I guess I just have to trust my attorney and the city of New Richmond to, back me if that does happen. All the right verbiage is in place to properly handle that and deal with it. I'm not gonna go to the person's door and drag them out. And it is a possibility, it could happen, And I guess when it does, we'll just,
You know, there's nothing wrong with saying, I was looking at the pictures today, some of those, the pictures I've looked at, the bars they have in there.
yeah, they're nice.
In the party area and
Oh.
the parties for a football game, and I can see people staying overnight after something
Yeah,
like
hopefully
that.
no kitchens or bars or anything. It's just a roughed in for a toilet in the corner and a sink.
So you're not gonna have any kitchens or, oh, I see.
No, no kitchens, no,
Looking at the
no
pictures, and I
kitchen,
just assume that,
no
that you-
kitchen, no shower, no bar, just a toilet and a sink.
And the way I understand from Noah is that it'd be breaking a city ordinance, so if somebody complained, they'd go to the city and then we'd check it out.
Yeah, so if we found that someone was, living in a warehouse or any other building in the city where it wasn't allowed, there are actions we would take. And also something that, if we get building permit applications for something, for an interior build out of one of these spaces that looks questionable, something that we can talk with Ben about to say, hey, someone's looking to put in a XYZ in here, and, so if something doesn't look right to us where it would maybe bring some doubt as to, someone, it's one thing if someone's having an event, but if you start to see improvements that are being proposed where it, looks like it's turning more into a bedroom and sleeping quarters, that's another issue. But yeah, from a zoning standpoint, that's something that as staff, regardless of, in this case, an industrial use being used for residential, but some cases we have the opposite. We have a business being run out of a house that isn't allowed in that neighborhood, and it's a residential neighborhood, and suddenly a neighbor sees a lot of traffic and customers coming and going, and something that may not be allowed in that area.
Well, I mean, what you just said, though, could somebody have a business in one of these? Is that possible? Do they have to apply, or could they?
So it's zoned for industrial uses. Now, not knowing what Ben, in terms of the condo declaration, if there's language about certain types of uses, but it would be zoned for some type of a small manufacturing.
So it could be, but it'd be dependent upon what you guys had for bylaws. Or
Correct,
that
yeah.
type of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
and then when there's nobody around a certain unit, do you allow cars to be parked in front of the door and around,
No, no outdoor,
nobody there?
no
nothing in
outdoor
front of the door?
anything, no trailers, no cars, no nothing. I mean, when you're there, you can park
Yeah, of
outside,
course.
but like not overnight or left for the weekend or,
I don't remember looking at the picture. Is that tall enough for a second floor in there?
no. I mean, I guess a person could do a mezzanine in the back or something if you wanted, but it's not on our plans or anything.
Refresh my memory again here without. How many buildings and how many units per building?
It's 6 buildings, and then every building's a little different due to like space. About 12 units.
They're all the same size?
Yeah, 3 of the buildings are the same. One's a little smaller, and then the 2 on the ends, the north and south, are like half buildings. 'Cause
Not yours, I don't know. You have heat in there?
Yep, yeah, floor heat.
Floor heat, yeah,
Yep.
that's what I was gonna ask, because
No air conditioning, just floor heat.
the windows, have windows through the garage door then?
Yeah, like if it's a 14 by 14 door, the upper panel has 4 window panes in it.
So no heat or anything like that then?
What's that?
Any heat?
Floor heat.
Or?
Yep.
And Ben, you mentioned that you're not putting kitchens in them, but Noah, to your point, somebody would have to actually apply for a building permit for us to know.
Correct.
And do you envision that your bylaws are going to prohibit? You're not putting kitchens. That doesn't mean if I bought one, I'll just say, what's going to stop me from putting one in there?
I mean, I guess behind closed doors, you could probably figure out a way to do it. But it'll be in our bylaws to prohibit them to do or a bathroom or a kitchen or a bar. All that's gonna be prohibited.
I'm actually not concerned about it, but I do think that they're big units, 25 by 45. That's what they are. They're big units, and I think it's a great location for them because in some ways, I know the construction isn't identical to a the hangars we have at the airport, but in some ways they feel to me, some of the hangars at the airport aren't used to store airplanes in. That's what I understand.
Manufacturing out of those.
Right, so I really don't see it as
Those
being
have toilets.
any
those have,
different.
You know,
Right.
bars, kitchens.
Any other questions? Not, take the roll, Michelle.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes,
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, Ordinance 609, required connections to sewer and water.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff are recommending revisions to ordinance, section 86-2, which requires parcels to hook to the city sewer and water when the sewer and water become available. The major changes to the ordinance that we're recommending making are that, currently it says that the building inspector will notify the property or the parcel owner, that of the required connection. That's currently not realistic. The building inspector is a contracted, outside service, so that's not something they would do. So we're changing that to say the Director of Public Works would make that, letter or notice to the owner. And then the other major change would be that currently it says within 10 days of them receiving the mailing or the notice, they have to have the connection of the water and sewer made. 10 days not realistic. There's no way they could get a contractor on board and doing the work within that amount of time. So we're recommending that within a 1-year period, they would have to make that connection, or they could come before the Utility Commission and have that extended to 5 years, a maximum of 5 years. We have gone through a couple versions at the last couple of Utility Commission meetings, and they were okay with the current version that we provided them, and they had recommended approval. So at this time, staff and the Utility Commission would be looking for council approval to approve the current version, red line version.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes.
Second.
Now, discussion, Mike?
yeah, thank you. So Eric, I'm curious about this language. Areas within the city capable of being served by public sewer and water. Define capable for me?
Yeah, I guess we would look at the feasibility of it. We had
Can you-
some.
I'm not trying to be obstinate here, but can you describe feasibility of it
Well,
for
and that's the
me?
thing, it's a little subjective. We talked about that at the Utility Commission at length. One of the members wanted to know, could there be some sort of formula that we do, some sort of equation, some sort of benchmark that we meet? That's really difficult because it all depends on the development. If it's $1 million sewer and water extension and it's extending to a $50 million development, then maybe it's feasible. If it's $1 million sewer and water extension extending to a residential house, then it's.
I hardcore understand the intent. I'm laughing inside because the city attorney has a big smile on his face, because when you go to law school, I think at the level 100 of your courses, they talk about, depending on what side of the issue you're on, try to get language that's as malleable as this is. And again, I understand the intent, Eric, but I do wonder, because it has been an issue, and obviously the reason we want to redo this language is because it's been an issue for the city. And I'm just wondering if there isn't a way to get a stronger language. I don't know if to me, it's geography. We just talked about a project that's going to be on the north side of Richmond that we can all agree it's not feasible for them to hook up the city water and sewer right now. That's easy.
But it's possible.
Well, sure. So, well, I guess, but the whole idea.
That's the whole point.
But it's, we would say it's not feasible because of the cost, that whole thing. But, and again, is it fair to say, as representing the city, you could imagine something is more feasible than the property owner necessarily does, right? And so I'm just wondering, and Nick, of course, I meant that with all due respect. I just love the way lawyers can craft things. But anyhow, isn't there language that could serve us more direct? If I'm somebody that's doing a development project and I look at this and I think to myself, wow, I know where that city, that water and sewer is. It's 100 feet away. I'm not, The city wants me to hook up, but I don't think it's feasible. That just, you understand the question I'm asking? Nick, I'll put that to you.
You looked like you wanted to chime in, so. I was-
Well, I mean, the way that the language is drafted, capable, is a function of the determination by the Director of Public Works, based on economic feasibility. That's how it's drafted and presented to you, so that it puts a heavy weight and burden on the Director of Public Works. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, the Director of Public Works could certainly look at something and say, well, that's economically feasible. And a developer could say, well, no way it's economically feasible because it costs X. I think that the challenge is always the size of the development, as Eric pointed out. If you're looking at a significant development and there's a significant cost, well, you know, maybe they correlate because of what's coming into the city and being capable by being served of that high cost. At the same point, I mean, if it's a high cost, but it's only serving a few units, well, is that economically feasible? And so I do think we want to keep it rather broad, because there are things like geographic distance or physical location. You know, maybe there are topographical issues that need to be addressed. Maybe it is size. And I don't know that we can outline or describe the majority of the situations that would either require or not require somebody to hook up. That being said, you know, I think we could certainly say the city, Public Works Director in conjunction with the city administrator, in their sole and absolute discretion. I mean, really what we want to do, I think, is say that this is really a determination that gets made by the city, right? And I understand that the point about developers wanting to read the code or landowners wanting to read the code to say, well, do I need to hook up or do I not? But I don't know that we're ever truly going to be able to describe the scenarios under which they will have to or they will not have to hook up, because I do think it's going to be a little bit different in each.
Yeah, it's tough to base
Could
it.
you put in there by the recommendation of the utility commission, because then you got 7 people looking at it, and then it's presented. Could you do it that way? Because it's better having 7 people looking at it, and then I think most of the things for the utilities are done through the utility commission, so why can't we have the utility commission make the recommendation?
Yeah, I think, Mayor, that's actually a thought that I just have. I wasn't necessarily thinking of the utility commission, but that would be, in all fairness, Eric or Noah, I think if it was on both of your shoulders to say yes or no, and then there could conceivably be an issue someday when neither of you are here and we're not here, and you know, whoever the city administrator and the director of public works says, you know, we know this guy, we don't want to do it here. You know, it just leaves itself open. So I do think that if the final determination, you know, there's a recommendation made by the director of public works to the utility commission or to the city council, whatever. But it seems to me it should be defined so that you're not put in the position of saying, well, you know, and the whole thing about topography, Nick, I mean, the reality is that if we say to somebody, you know, we only have to go under 3 bodies of water and over 1 mountain range, but we think it's a big development, we're going to do it. I mean, I get that example, but it does seem like there should be some other body, and maybe the utility commission's the perfect place for that grants the final, has the final say, based on a recommendation by the public works director. I would like to see that defined there, that it isn't just areas within the city capable of being served as determined and approved by, right? We could add that language. That doesn't hurt to do that, but it does give it some definition. So if I'm a developer, I know what I have to do. It doesn't matter what somebody says to me, until this action's taken, I don't have an okay or not okay, whatever the deal is, not to hook up or to hook up.
Let me make a different suggestion. There is certainly the availability or the opportunity to say everybody shall be required to hook up unless
Sure.
there's an exception granted by the city council
Sure.
or the utility commission.
Yep.
So, you know, as opposed to looking at it from a from the perspective of.
Maybe you do, maybe you
have-
don't.
You have to
Yep.
try to figure it out.
Yep.
You know, perhaps you look at it from the perspective that you're required to, unless you make application.
And get a
to
waiver.
The council or the utility commission to get a
Because
waiver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it
that's
also-
an option as well.
I mean, we just had a discussion, Ben had a long discussion with people about this. He knows that at some time he's gonna have to hook up. So part of these discussions should be pre-done. I mean, the people, and he's concurrent with that, I think. He's gonna do that he's not gonna fight it when it happens. In fact, he'll probably be happy when it happens at some time. But I think that's another part of this story, is that these things are thoroughly discussed and the people who do all the planning and stuff, they're thoroughly discussed with him, and so he understands. At some time, water and sewer is gonna be there, and you have to hook up. So I think that's also part of this discussion in there.
But almost everything
Yeah.
we do comes from one of the commissions as a recommendation to the city council. I think that's just another function here, doing it that way, and like Mike said, is taking a burden off Eric, that you have 7 people making a decision on this and then passing it on. That's the way I see it, at least.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think your advice, Nick, is very good. If we just say everybody has to hook up,
Yep.
we take the word capable out of there unless granted a waiver, right? I don't know if that's, and that all needs to be memorialized, because from my perspective, one of the great challenges we've had over the last 30 years or so is people saying, well, this is what I was told, and there isn't anything memorialized that really laid out, hard to find. And I just think the process of getting waivers, while I'm sure there's cases where it's gonna be granted, at least we had a hard record of what was agreed to.
Mike,
Well,
do you
and
want to make?
Presumably, you'll have a staff recommendation.
Of course,
like
but
in like in the case of the last,
Right.
Mike, do you want to make a motion to table until our work session or next council meeting?
Well,
We'd have to stop discussion. I've got some other things.
yeah, no, that's fine, I'll wait.
Is there currently any situation in the city of New Richmond that is not hooked up to city sewer and water?
Yes.
That is capable
Yeah.
of?
Oh,
Okay, is feasible? Okay, is we know of that should be?
yes, through this process, we've actually talked about, there are some that.
Yes, there
is
are.
Are feasible, and that we do have a plan moving forward on how.
Okay, so that's, to me, that's one of the things that needs to be looked at, because there's a few houses or businesses or whatever that should be on city sewer and water that chose not to, and those should be mandatory. They have to hook up also. That was my only discussion
Well, and
point.
to that point, I'm reading this and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about new development. How would it pertain to what Craig's describing? Existing residents, let's just say that's in the city, that didn't hook up, was given, is this granting the city more authority? I mean, and Nick, again, I'm gonna ask you, how would you respond to that?
typically, if you were to move to a mandatory obligation to hook up, unless there's a waiver, then presumably you would provide notice to those that are not hooked up and either give them the opportunity to apply for a waiver, like come in and state their case, or potentially build into the ordinance or into the language a separate provision that says those that are not currently connected have until X date.
Have to.
Normally, that's a couple years down the road.
Right.
I don't mind the time. According to this, we went from 10 days or literally 10 minutes to 5 years. So the time frame is not that big a deal. They need to get on city sewer and water. I mean, if they're
Actually, I think you mean,
feasible.
actually, I think you mean we went from never
Never.
to 10. So Eric, do you envision that having that type of language would give you perhaps the necessary leverage when you're dealing with some, I'm not talking about new developments now. I'm talking about existing property. Would it help?
Yeah, and I'm perfectly fine with, the utility commissioner or council making that decision. You guys can be the bad guys, and I don't have to.
I think it should be a council decision, but.
Yeah, I think it should be,
And,
at a
yeah.
minimum, a recommendation from the utility commission, just like everything.
Just like everything else.
Yeah, so unless somebody has something else,
I will
then
make a motion to table this.
Table, okay.
I'll second that motion.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Motion
And-
passes.
And so, Mr. Mayor, can I ask, is it feasible that we could be talking about this at the work session? July, what do you think, with those necessary changes?
Yeah, either at the June work session or the regular July meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay, consultant selection, stormwater utility rate study.
Yeah, so we received 3 proposals by the May 22nd deadline for consultants to redo or reanalyze our stormwater utility rates and also reanalyze the methodology that goes behind those rates. We received 3 proposals, MSA, Ellers, and Raftellus. They were all very good, strong proposals. They all would do a very good job. They all had their strengths and weaknesses. Staff scored them. We had MSA and Ellers virtually tied. We thought they were both strong. They both would do a very good job. However, it came down to MSA was about $5,000 cheaper. So we couldn't really justify spending the extra $5,000 when we essentially get a very good product either way. So
So
staff
tie
would
goes to the low bidder. is what
it's,
you're
yeah,
saying.
yep. And so staff would recommend going with the low bidder, MSA Professional Services for $34,925.
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion that we approve the stormwater utility rate study to awarding it to MSA Professional Services in the amount $34,925.
Second.
Any discussion? Not? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes. Bid results, Public Works Building Upgrade.
Yeah, we opened bids for the building upgrade project on May 30th. We received 7 total bids. It's a pretty competitive bid process. The 3 low bids for the bid package number 1 were within $1,800 of each other. So bid package number 1 would be upgrades to the electric and water shops, so expansion and connecting the 2 buildings. That's the larger project. Alternate number 1 was in conjunction, related to the work of bid package number 2, even though it was bid with bid number 1. So bid package number 2 is a fabric cold storage structure that would be installed at the Public Works shop. And then the alternate was site work and electrical work and some surfacing for the fabric building. River Valley Architects reviewed the bids. They didn't have any problems with the low bidder, Berghammer Builders, for bid package number 1. The low bidder for bid package number 2, there's actually 2 numbers that are the same. However, Structures Unlimited had provided a price to Heft Builders. Either way, it was Structures Unlimited who was going to get the low bid for the fabric structure. So staff would be recommending, and River Valley Architects, to move forward with Berghammer Builders for bid package number 1, including the alternate, and then with Structures Unlimited for bid package number 2. And then, as a reminder, we have in there, in the space needs analysis that was done, there were some deficiencies on the existing buildings that were identified. That wasn't included in the architect's bid package work, so that is something that we will bid out in-house, and you'll see the bids for that at a later date.
Eric, what is the alternate? I'm trying to find that in here. What does that refer to?
The alternate,
Yeah.
so a bid alternate is typically something that you might not award. It's sometimes extra service. They bid it as an alternate just in case we came in way over budget, and then we'd have something that we could take out of the project easily.
So can I ask you, it said, and now I see it, it says the bid alternate covered site work for the fabric structure, which is actually bid number 2,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So in this case, Berghammer, if we award that's the recommendation to award it to Berghammer, and they're getting it because overall, if you just read the top line, and I'd say this for the public's benefit, they're saying, well, wait a minute, they weren't the low bid, but with the alternate, which is work you're planning on doing,
Correct.
they are the low bid.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And the reason it was bid that way, it's a little confusing. They already have subcontractors that are doing site work, that are doing electrical work, whereas the fabric structure supplier may not have had those subcontractors lined up, so it made sense to bid it with bid package number 1.
What's the difference between Burhammer and Derrick as far as monetarily?
You got to add the alternate. If,
Yeah,
add that second line.
If you add the alternates, over $8,000.
Do you have a motion to approve Berghammer for bid number 1 and the alternate?
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer that motion. As it's laid out in the recommendation here, sorry.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I realize the whole low bid thing. Derrick's a local company with local workers that live in this community. I know we have a responsibility to the other taxpayers also to.
Well, there's state statutes also that require you to award to the
For
low
this?
bidder. Yeah, yes.
Oh, there is.
Public construction, you have to award to the low bidder unless you can somehow prove that the low bidder is not a responsible
Okay, my bad.
contractor. And then can I also
And we
request?
can't do that.
I don't know if you'll do a separate motion or if. in your
We can
motion
add
you
the other
have-
one too for bid number
Yeah.
2
Yep.
for heft for 186,800.
Mayor, is it okay? I mean, just since we've already got this motion out there, can we go ahead and just vote on this and then we'll do the second one? I know
can do it that
we-
way, that's
we
fine.
should have
Either way.
offered it that way. I just don't want to muddy it up.
Fine.
So I don't know if there's no more discussion.
No more discussion, take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes,
Motion passes.
Now,
Now bid
Mr. Mayor,
number 2 for
I'll-
heft.
I'll offer a motion that we approve the bid from from Structures Unlimited for bid number 2 in the amount of 186,800 for the second part of this, for the fabric part of this project.
Are they going to do that or is heft going to do the work?
No, Structures Unlimited will do the work.
Okay, they will,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
Excuse me. And any questions on that?
Second on that
I'll
one?
second it just so we can get into discussion.
Discussion? If not, take the roll.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes,
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, bids for water tower repainting, cleaning, and inspection services.
Yeah, we requested bids from consultants to do some maintenance on water tower number 1. We've spoken about this in the past. There was some delamination of the coating on top of the tower, so the bare metal is starting to poke through, which needs to get corrected. So we put it out for bids to consultants who included the work and the inspection work of that maintenance, which was the base bid. We also bid out power washing of the 2 towers, which was alternate number 1. And then every year we have annual inspections performed. That's just an ongoing thing that we do every year. And that is alternate number 2 is the annual inspections. We figured we'd include it all in one package for the consultant to take care of instead of bidding it out separately. We received 4 bids on, unfortunately, Badger State Inspections. Bid was incomplete. They did not include the work to actually correct the coatings on top of the tower. They just included the inspection work. The 3 other bids, the low bid was from KLM Engineering for the base bid. It would be our recommendation at this time to move forward with KLM on the base bid and the 2 alternates for a total of $41,176.
I'd make a motion that we award the bid to KLM Engineering for the amount of $41,176.
Second, somebody?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
yes,
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, force main T fitting repair.
Yeah, so with recent inspections, there's a force main, a pressurized pipe that goes from our main lift station up to the wastewater treatment plant. There's an air release on that force main that lets any air that builds up in the pipeline out of the pipeline so that it doesn't could cause a blockage. Recently, they discovered that the air release valve had failed, and they were replacing it. And while they were doing the work replacing it, they noticed that this T that holds the valve has also failed. So there's a large crack in it, and when the pumps start up at the lift station, it actually sprays water out and it'll fill up the manhole. So we were hoping to have 3 quotes to present to you tonight. We've only gotten a response back from 1 contractor. We're hoping to get 2 more quotes as soon as possible. It's not an emergency at this point. We can continue to monitor it and pump the manhole down as needed. However, it's something that should be corrected as soon as possible. So at this point, I'm not sure if it's allowed, but the 1 quote we have, the work should be about $20,000. So I don't know if we can move forward with a not to exceed number. If we get the other quotes and it comes in below 20,000, then we could just move forward.
Have a date set up for when the bids had to be in?
No, this isn't something we put out for bids. It's something that just came up and we're trying to move it
Okay.
along as quickly as possible because it's something that should get fixed because there is the danger of if that manhole did fill
It
up.
looks
and
like
we-
it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and if we have sewage spilling out on the ground, then the DNR gets involved, then we have to notify residents, we have to do a proper cleanup, so it gets much more costly if we have an actual overflow of the sewage.
You wait until the work session, or do you just want to wait until more bids come in?
That's
and then
fine,
make
we
a
could bring it back to
decision?
like I said, it's not an emergency, it's something that's needs to get corrected as soon as possible, but, yeah, we can continue to work on getting 2 more quotes and bring it to
Well,
the work
I
session.
think to that end, you're estimating the repair costs. So you've gotten a bid from somebody?
Yeah, we have 1 quote,
And how much was that for,
I
roughly?
think it was about $15,000, and then we'll have to hire a septic hauler, so there's no way to bypass the main lift station. So when they're doing this work, the main lift station will have to be shut down, and then that'll start filling up with sewage. So we'll have to have a septic hauler pumping down the main lift station and hauling it up to the treatment plant.
So
Have a bid or a quote?
A quote.
they don't have to bid it, but he wants to get numbers from, they were hoping to
we-
get
Yeah, I
numbers
I
from a
think
couple.
just for clarification in regards to our purchasing policy, so if it's an emergency, we can bypass the formal bidding process. This is not deemed an emergency, it's deemed as urgent. So therefore, it still falls underneath our purchasing requirements because we estimate it to be $20,000 or less. It doesn't require formal bidding. It requires an informal process where we can obtain quotes. And then from that process, we would notice who we would award it to prior to the work commencing.
So I guess the question is, you said it's urgent?
Correct.
If it failed, would it be an emergency then?
Yes, it would.
It just seems to me that we would provide them the cover to go ahead and do it if they have to.
Well,
If
can you
something
get 2
came
more
up-
quotes and then make a decision, which is the best? Can we tell you to do that?
Discussed this at the utility commission. So this obviously was not a budgeted item. Typically, this would only go to the utility commission, wouldn't be coming to the council. The utility commission won't have a July meeting, so they won't meet again until August. But they were comfortable with staff going out and getting quotes and then just bringing those to the council.
So we can wait until the plant or work session, 2 weeks from now, or do you want to do something sooner?
So this would give us time to get quotes. Again, we don't want to publicly share what the quote is that
Right.
we have right
Yep.
now. But again, this has already been a couple weeks, so I mean, this is, it's a priority, but this isn't, again, to Rand's comment, if it was something that needed to be fixed today, we would just get it fixed, so.
But to Mike's comment, it could turn into an emergency really quick, and by the looks of this picture, to me, it's pretty much got to be done as soon as possible.
Eric, do you
I'm
think?
not-
Oh.
So,
I'm not
I-
going to say
I
I'm the
mean,
expert, so.
You
Eric,
could
do you
take
think-
2 pass to this. We can bring back the additional quotes at the work session
It'll
in
be okay?
June. Or you can give staff authorization to proceed in an amount not to exceed $20,000. If it would exceed $20,000, then we would bring back additional request as part of the June work
Yeah, why don't
session.
you do that?
Mr. Mayor,
I
I'm
think
gonna,
that'd be-
I'm gonna,
Motion to do that.
yeah, and then I'm gonna second Greg's motion to go ahead and authorize staff to go up to $20,000. If it's exceeding that, they'll have to come back for additional approval.
Are we- Any other questions?
I just want to tell you, Eric, when you're talking sewer stuff, photos really rule the day.
We had a video too, but,
Well, I just wish we had time.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Weidemeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Passes. Next item, authorization to begin consultation selection process, East First Street reconstruction.
Yeah, so we recently were awarded an STP urban grant for reconstruction of East First Street. It's about a $2.2 million grant to reconstruct the roadway. STP doesn't cover utilities, so the utility portion will have to be funded by the city, but the street portion will be 80% funded by WISDOT through the feds, or feds through the WISDOT.
And what's the estimate on our costs?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember
Just
off
curious.
the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah. To take part in this grant, we have to follow the DOT process as far as consultant selection, which we did with our TAP Trail grant. So basically, what we do is we send out a notice to all consultants on the DOT roster asking for a statement of qualifications. They submit those qualifications. Our Public Works Committee acts as the selection committee. They will take those qualification statements and narrow them down to 3 firms. Those 3 firms will then come in and go through an interview process, and then the selection committee will narrow that down to their selection of first, second, and third. And then we will send that ranking to the DOT for their approval. And then it is the DOT which will then negotiate the design consultant fees. So these are not to be any part of the consultant selection process through the DOT process.
It works identical to the TAP grant.
Same exact process, yep, that we.
Oh, now that I no longer live there, how nice is that road gonna be?
Be real nice.
Yeah, I'll
Real
bet.
nice.
Your motion for authorization.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion?
So is there a possibility that the same company
Yeah, it's quite possible.
could do this? Okay.
Yeah, so
Which would be beneficial to the entire
yeah,
project.
it would be helpful. It's very beneficial that the street project's happening for the trail project, because the trail project was gonna be very difficult to shoehorn in the existing infrastructure. And now with the street being reconstructed, the trail will be much easier to build, so.
Right.
Then the county did get a grant for their portion.
All 3 of these things could happen at the
Yep.
same time.
Yep, and it seems far out, right now it's for fiscal year '27. But going through the whole DOT process is gonna take a long time for the design consultants, so getting started now is important. And they're also gonna have to coordinate with the trail project designer potentially if it's not the same firm.
Probably will be in 27 though.
Yeah, it could potentially start in '26, June of '26, is fiscal year through the state, so.
Any other questions? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Weidemeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, 2024 first quarter tourism funding recommendations.
I am taking this one tonight. At the May 16th meeting of the Tourism Committee, they reviewed one application for reimbursement funds from the city of New Richmond. It was submitted for the purchase and installation of the banner poles that are located just to the other side of Subway off of Knowles Avenue. The request was for $15,188.85, which is recommended from the Tourism Committee to make that application whole from the city of New Richmond. So,
Eric, how much does one pole cost? 50, almost $16,000. I know there's work to put them in, but what is the actual cost of a pole? Is this a metal, I'm assuming? Fiberglass? So if somebody hits it, it breaks easier?
So what
the poles themselves were just under $7,000.
So what are you asking for?
We're asking.
15,000?
So this is $15,188. That was the complete project with the poles, the installation, and the wire hanging on that. The Tourism Committee has approved the full requirement. These requests come before the City Council for disbursement then to the awarded applicant. So we're just looking for authorization to move forward with the recommendation from the Tourism Committee reimburse the city of New Richmond for those expenses.
So for their first request, they thought this was gonna cost like a little bit over $5,000. Went from 5,000 to 15.
That was just the polls at that point in time for that request. 2001, so they did bring back the additional request for the balance.
Well,
No,
Yeah, I'll offer that motion to approve the purchase out of the tourism funds.
Second?
yeah, my only problem with this, I don't, the tourism dollars to me shouldn't go towards poles. I mean, they should go towards things to get people to come to Richmond for tourism. I don't know what these poles do for tourism.
Yeah,
I understand the tourism dollars are pretty ambiguous in what they want to spend them on, but
So at the recent work session, the council approved the policy for that local groups would follow if they want to advertise on there. So I mean, that's really the purpose, is that it gives those groups a opportunity for 14,000 cars a day to see their messaging, so.
not take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle. Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, request for qualifications, marketing consultant. And this is for tourism.
Correct. So this is another recommendation from the Tourism Committee. In 2023, at the fourth quarter, there was pretty substantial discussion in regards to how to better leverage some room tax dollars in the marketing and promotion of the city as a whole. And therefore, they are recommending a request for qualifications to seek a marketing consultant that can help to streamline our goals that are listed out here, which would really be diversifying lead market sources to help build awareness of our events and opportunities that would bring individuals to the city of New Richmond. Also increase the number of our destination travelers to area, continue to optimize our relationship with the Wisconsin Department of Tourism. And then really, as I mentioned before, leverage some of our proximity to both urban and rural draws. And so with that, this qualification process, this is just going out to obtain those qualifications, evaluate those, and then bring those back for future discussion with the Tourism Committee and the City Council.
Do we have a motion?
I'll offer that motion. And the motion is authorizing city staff to issue the request for qualifications to seek a marketing consultant. That's all we're doing at this point.
Correct.
Second?
Discussion.
Well, I want to just ask this question. I guess maybe kind of gets to, Craig, that question you asked about the pools, which, for what it's worth, I see the relationship to marketing events. I'm curious, the money we spent or are spending to hire a consultant for downtown, for lack of a better word, ostensibly, couldn't that be a use of tourism funds?
City could apply if, when those costs are finalized, when that work is done, the city could apply later this year to be.
Yeah, I would encourage them to do that.
yeah, I agree. I think this is $15,000, 800 and whatever dollars that we just spent on polls. This is a good way to spend money. This is what tourism dollars that bring in people to Richmond. I think this is a perfect opportunity to spend tourism dollars. Not so much on the polls, but
I got a question on this too. Through the state of Wisconsin, they have a tourism bureau. Do they have any grants for this too? Have we checked into that? Grants for hiring this consultant
Yeah, we certainly can explore additional grant opportunities for a consultant as such as this. Typically, grants are going to fund new events or establish new events. A lot of the grant opportunities that, excuse me, are through the state right now are looking to help, like I said, more of an event structure and not so much of a consultant. That's where we felt like the utilization, or the tourism committee feels like the utilization collect, this could be a really good utilization moving forward, and an ongoing to continue those marketing efforts that they have as an objective.
But I mean,
Any idea, go ahead, Jim.
are there grants for that? So if we can get grants, then this money can stay in it for other projects people bring to the, to the tourism committee.
Yeah. Right now, we're not aware of any grants that would cover
We looked?
this type of consulting. Yes, that we have looked initially. We are always continuing to look for grant opportunities, Mr. Mayor. For this particular one, though, again, the consulting of just general marketing, there doesn't seem to be a good fit for grant opportunities at this moment. Again, a lot of those are more event-based to kind of help launch a new event and then help sustain it as it continues to move forward. But we'll continue to look, and if there are areas that we can, reduce those expenses, we certainly will explore those.
Idea how they charge, or any idea of the cost? I mean, a guess?
On this particular one, I would anticipate that they will look at what our initial objectives are from those goals. It will probably really come down to more of a cost per hour type of structure.
How they usually charge it out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then we would have to identify, with the
Estimate
objectives,
about
what the time frame would
amount of
look
hours.
like. Mm-hmm.
So we have a list of things that we want them to do for us. Is that what we do then?
Correct. We have general goals and objectives, and really part of a request for qualifications would be bringing those firms in for interviews to really kind of hone in on how do you achieve, and then how do you gauge those for success, those goals and objectives that you're trying to achieve. So through those interviews, we'll be able to glean more information in regards to the best partner to move forward with.
Here, a motion to approve,
We already
Done.
have a
Yep,
motion
all
and
done
a second.
and seconded.
Yep.
take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Motion passes. Last item, vacation of utility easement, 421 South Green Avenue. Vacation.
And actually, no action needed on this item tonight. We've been doing our due diligence to see, when we did the certified survey map, it appeared that there may have been a utility easement. We've been spending a lot of hours the last couple of weeks looking through this, and actually it looks like it was not actually formally recorded. Therefore, there's no easement to formally vacate. So no action needed on there at this point.
Okay, communication and miscellaneous.
Just a reminder, Wednesday at Northwood Tech, the library has the June 12th, 1899 cyclone, the 125th anniversary, starting at 6 p.m.
I just want to mention Nick's firm, they had their 75th anniversary. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. I attended that, and it was very well attended, and it was a nice event. So congratulations on your company's 75th anniversary.
Michelle, you said that's tomorrow night?
Wednesday,
Wednesday, the
When-
12th.
the 12th.
Wednesday, 12th
which-
at
That's
6
the
p.m.
anniversary. That's the anniversary.
It's a really neat program they're gonna have, so it's an hour and a half. It'll be,
And there will be displays around the cyclone event set up at the Heritage Center all day too. So if anyone wants to make a day of it, you should check out those displays as well.
Then just mention, is it the Friends of the Library that are having the book sale? That's, and in case anybody wonders, is being sponsored by Crum Roofing and Siding. That's why you see their signs there. They paid for the tent. So in case anybody wonders, but their book sale is going on right now.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I have one thing. I've been working with Syntagon. They're bringing in a gentleman named William Moyer. He's a New York Times bestselling author on addiction. As you know, I'm part of the Living Well Together community. We're not part of this, but they did ask us to kind of get the word out. He's talking about his story of addiction and redemption. He's, works up at the Betty Ford, Hazelden facility, and he'll be speaking free of charge down at Northwoods Tech, and I'm looking for the date here. It's this Thursday at 5:30 to 7 PM. So if you know anybody, I mean, we all know people that addiction touches. I think this would be a really good opportunity to have very good speaker come and talk to the folks in Richmond. So find yourself with some time and want to attend, that'd be awesome.
Other communication? Not to hear a motion to go into closed session per state statute 19.851D.
I'll offer that motion.
I'll second it.
Take the roll, please, Michelle.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
We're in closed session.
I'll take a 5-minute.
Maybe you want to take a break?
Craig, what was that? Craig,
This conference is no longer being recorded.
30 to 7.
what was that guy's name again?
Hold on.